All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 20th regularly scheduled Village of Tuxedo Park Board of Trustees meeting. And if we could start by everyone standing to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Citrin,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lindsay,
Present.
Trustee Brooke, Trustee Shara will note for the record he is absent, and Trustee Turner will also note for the record he is absent.
Thank you very much. So let me start by giving you essentially an update to the Jennings Creek fire. Before I give you the update today, I just want to say that I have had the opportunity to go to Greenwood Lake Fire Department last week to see all the men and women who were working so hard to keep that fire contained. I went with Sheila, and we were very impressed by the work that was being done, and we owe a debt of gratitude to these men and women who've been working very, very hard to protect our community as well as the surrounding communities. We were never really in any danger. The fire line at Long Meadow Road was never breached. And at the present time, they're essentially involved in what they call mop-up operations. With the forecast for heavy rain tomorrow into Friday, whatever danger was posed to anyone should be completely past, and the fire should be completely doused by then. They brought in crews from Colorado. They call them hot shots. They worked the fire, the interior of the fire. We had volunteer fire companies from all over this portion of the state working on it, and they just did a fantastic job. And as I said, as a community, we owe them a debt of gratitude. I'd also like to thank the members of the community, the residents, who cooperated with the various requests, not to do any exterior burning, not to use their chimneys, not to ignite or at least risk the ignition of any leaves. And in the end, there was no damage anywhere to any structures. Depending upon what happens in the future, hopefully we'll never have to face this type of crisis again. But to everyone in the community, I want to thank you all for your cooperation. I'd like to announce that tomorrow's balloon test has been postponed due to the expected heavy rain. That is the Verizon balloon test on Ridge Road. It's been rescheduled for Tuesday, November 26th. To those of you that requested photographs be taken from your property, they will be taken. I just remind anyone who is not going to be home or will be home who wants a professional photographer to take photos of the balloon as it appears from any vantage point on their property, please fill out the consent to entry form that was circulated last week and mail it to me, and I'll be sure that the photographer comes to your property and takes photos that will then be given to you so you have them as a record. Jeff Voss, who would ordinarily give the DPW report, is not feeling well. He's under the weather. So there will be no DPW report, but I wanted to mention one item. Several months ago, I began to get complaints from the residents of the villa at 63 Crow's Nest Road, the apartment complex with 9 units, that there was a problem with water pressure, and the water pressure problem had existed for quite some time, especially on the 3rd floor of the building. And in response to that, the village hired a company that does leak detection. And after some study, they found that there was a major leak in the vicinity of 43 Crow's Nest Road. The DPW repaired that leak. And once the leak was repaired, the water pressure at the villas essentially doubled, and it's no longer an issue. And I want to give thanks and congratulate the DPW for the fine job they did once we found the source of the problem. Halloween was some time ago. We've probably all forgotten about it, but from my perspective, it was quite a success. I want to thank the residents of Clubhouse Road for opening their homes, so to speak, and putting out candy for the children. I want to thank Ryan Burns, who was good enough to bring a hayride on his own time to take people around Tower Hill Loop, and I think everybody really enjoyed that. I want to thank Mrs. Demick on Tower Hill Loop, who opened up her house to the celebrants and actually fed anybody who came in. Her chili was superb, and we certainly thank her. At least the adults I know thank her, because how much candy can we as adults eat? So we appreciated the real food that she gave to anyone who entered. Nemec, yes, thank you. Nemec, Mrs. Nemec, I apologize, on Tower Hill Road. So with respect to Halloween, there were some people who wanted to consider an alternative location for their own, whatever the reasons were. So I think what we'll do when August and September roll around next year is we might ask volunteers to set up a committee to really organize the Halloween at a location that everyone agrees would be best. Clubhouse Road has certainly worked for years, but there was some feedback from people who would have preferred to have it somewhere else or even have it at multiple locations. So with that being said, I will sit down and we will begin the meeting, which hopefully will not last particularly long. Thank you very much. I'll turn now to the deputy mayor. Any comments from the deputy mayor?
Not until later.
Okay, trustee Brooke, any comments?
I would concur with your comment that the response of the community to the fire was extraordinary. I think the ambulance corps was up there and people were actually sleeping in the ambulance. So I want to raise the issue with Jared that they provide a valuable community support, and we should figure out a way of providing support for what they do in the service of their response to the residents. I think also the fire, which was clearly disturbing, was very related to overgrowth of trees. And therefore, I'm going to be proposing some stuff dealing with the tree ordinances here going forward, because it's only fortunate that it didn't jump the road. There were cases that you had large trees that literally went up in flames. You watched the fire go up the tree, just enormously difficult thing. So I think from a public health perspective, we're gonna have to look at the issues that are raised by the fire and deal with them. But, we'll deal with that as the year goes on. Hopefully, with winter coming, there could be no more fires.
Thank you. Members of the public, any members of the public here wish to comment? Professor Hayes.
Ask a question. Are you considering the adoption of hydropower tonight from the New York
Yes.
Power Authority? Okay, I would just like to urge you to go with totally green power, but I'd also like to urge you to go with as long a contract as you can, because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So I think you don't know where the world's going to be a year from now. So I think a longer contract would be better.
Deputy Mayor has studied the subject, and she's prepared to make a presentation on the cost benefit analysis, and we'll get to that at the appropriate point of the agenda. Thank you, Professor. Seeing no one else in the room who wishes to comment, are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment who have joined us on Zoom? Yes, Mr. Hempel.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to express my appreciation on behalf of the Tuxedo Park Fire Department, neighboring fire companies in the Tuxedo District and the Orange County for the support and confidence of everyone in this challenging time. And it was full of anxiety the last few weeks. But there were a lot of volunteers to fight that fire, including many of your neighbors. So I appreciate the kind words. Everyone was safe at the end of the day, and we were confident all the way along that that would be the case.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we'll get on to the reports. Court report is attached. So the first live report will come from our police chief, Alan Faust. Chief?
Good evening. The police department responded to 144 calls for the month. They issued 3 summonses for traffic tickets. They issued 17 warnings and 17 or 11 fire alarms, 4 intrusion alarms, 5 medical calls. They patrolled 2,921 miles for the month and approximately had 914 cars per day. Also, everybody just remember, it's November, December, so the deer are starting to run, so be extra cautious on the roads. And also in regards to the wildfires, I know we had some very concerned citizens here, but at no time did we ever have any worries here. I attended the daily briefings almost every day of the fires. And again, also commend our emergency service center in Orange County is unbelievable. The commissioner and the deputy commissioner, and it was very, very, very well run. And I'm sure if there's any incidents that we have to worry about here, I have many resources at my disposal with the snap of a finger. We have an app which I have all the emergency services on. We also have one for the police chief, so anytime we have a major incident, one text goes out and I get all the professionals come running as quick as they can, and we come up with a plan on what we have to do. So, and again, just to commend all the volunteers and people that came to help out that fire, even the people in there bringing donations and cooking. It was really, really nice to see how communities come together like that. And also you see the beard, we're also, the police department's participating in that No Shave November, which each officer that grows a beard will donate money to their favorite cancer charity.
Thank you, Chief. And on behalf of the village, I want to thank you for attending those briefings. I know they weren't all during business hours, one at 9 and one at 6. And you spent a lot of time traveling to and from Greenwood Lake. And on behalf of the community, thank you very much for attending and keeping us updated as the briefings took place during the last 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next would be the building department. John?
Much of the standard inspections were done on projects that are ongoing. We did have a few things that were out of the ordinary. Most people know there was a structure fire at 37 Fox Hill Road. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but there was substantial damage to the house. So we've been working with the property owner as far as securing the home and getting the necessary permits to go forward and start the renovation. Also, we had 2 incidents where I issued a stop work order today for work that was being performed at 31 Camp Comfort Road. That just went out today. Also, we discovered the pool contractor at 104 Clubhouse Road was draining water from the pool into a storm drain near the edge of the road. And that was stopped as soon as I got there, fortunately. Other than that, we did have one contractor that was attempting to use a synthetic wood material that the bar has not approved. And I had him remove the product, and work continued thereafter. So they were the outliers. Fortunately, most of the other projects are proceeding as planned.
Well, thank you for the enforcement efforts. Certainly, I noticed the water pouring out of that hose going down towards Tuxedo Lake or Reservoir, and thank you for getting on top of that and taking care of it. All right, the water department reports are attached to the record. Treasurer reports are attached to the record. So I now turn to the deputy mayor, who will give both a climate smart update and then a capital plan committee report. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so by the door, as you go out, please pick up one of these scorecards. It's our NYSERDA Clean Energy Community Scorecard, which shows how many points we've earned to date and the actions that we've completed, and some statistics as to how we stand against other communities in the Mid-Hudson region. So I will also be sending that out by email. Since our last meeting, final documentation has been submitted to NYSERDA for the grants to be used for clean energy upgrades. So we hope to hear from them in the next 4 to 6 weeks when we will receive those funds. I will ask Denise to send an email out with links and information about our community solar and community choice aggregation programs. we have realized that most residents have not taken advantage of 5% discount on their entire electricity bills that the village is offering through our community solar program. And to just talk a little bit more about the program, Community Solar is a New York State sponsored program with no cost to residents and no fees. The reason for that is New York subsidizes the developers who build the solar farm projects as long as they pass on a discount to subscribers. So the program is a 5% credit applied to 100% of your electricity bill. And we also realize that many residents have opted out of the Community Choice Aggregation Program, which supplies renewable energy supply. So opting out of this program, it hinders the village's goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and protecting the environment. If you opt out, that means O&R is going to supply you with energy that is at least 90% fossil fuel. The program that we have is 50% New York renewable energy, and the other 50% is out-of-state renewable. Staying in the program is probably the single most important action that residents can take to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and protect the environment. A little bit more about that program. The renewable option through the program impacts only 40% of your electricity bill, only the supply portion. The other 60% is what O&R charges for delivery and maintenance of the supply system, the delivery system. So if you combine the community solar program, which is 5% off of 100% of your bill, with the community choice aggregation program for renewable energy, which only impacts 40% of your bill, you really don't feel a negative impact on prices. So what I'd like to do is send out the links and more information, have Denise send that out so that more people will opt back in if they did opt out of the supply, renewable supply, and also so that they will easily be able to subscribe to the community solar. The renewable energy program we have is a fixed rate through November of next year. And you have to remember that even if this month the O&R rate might be lower than the renewable rate, the O&R rate will fluctuate monthly. So I hope everybody will help us achieve our goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's my report for that. I'll move on to the next. You would like? My next report is on the capital plan. So the capital planning committee has identified capital improvement projects that we will present to the village board. We have also identified water and sewer projects that will be funded with bond issues. Capital projects will be staggered over the next 4 or 5 years. The committee will prepare a report for residents to be presented at a special meeting in January. Our goal is to prepare and vote on a bond resolution at the January Board of Trustees meeting so that we can start projects in the spring. Tom Birmingham and I have met with our engineer and bond underwriter to map out a timetable for these projects and a strategic bond structure. That's my report on capital projects.
Thank you.
But part of that is ARPA projects. So ARPA funds were received about 3 years ago from the federal government. Some of the capital improvement projects will be funded with the $61,000 in ARPA funds we received from the federal government. Those projects will include improvements to the Pond 3 Dam, a new heating system at the South Gatehouse, and clear well upgrades at the water treatment plant. That's my report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the bottom line on one of the issues, folks, is that the village is going to propose a bond or a series of bonds. Before that's done, there will be an informational special meeting of the Board of Trustees to be scheduled in early January before the board considers the bond resolution sometime, I guess it would be the third Wednesday of January, is a
Right.
regularly scheduled meeting. So keep an eye out for that, because obviously any bonds that are issued are the obligation of the village, and the village is funded by the taxpayers. So everyone should have an interest in it, and we will make sure that you have the necessary information so that you're advised as to how we're going to move forward on that particular point. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, moving right along, approval of meeting minutes, October 23rd, our last regular meeting. I would move that the minutes.
Excuse me,
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back.
Um,
Yep. Be it
yeah.
resolved. Yeah. Reports to the board. Thank you. I have my script. Be it resolved that the board shall add all written reports to the permanent record. I make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. All in favor? Aye. 3-0. Next, we move on to the minutes. Be it resolved by the Board of Trustees, approve the minutes from October 23rd of 2024 regular meeting. I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. Any discussion, amendments, corrections to the minutes by anybody here?
Nope.
Trustee Brooke?
No.
Anything? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, okay. Next item on the agenda is the Village Boat Club license agreement. Trustee Brooke and I worked closely with the executive committee of the Village Boat Club, and we came up with a draft agreement that we're going to put to the board for approval. What I learned some time ago, and I think I mentioned this, is that the boat club have been operating and everybody loves it, but it's very important that we have a written agreement, and the last agreement was probably 20 years ago. So we have a proposed agreement in place. It essentially mirrors the earlier agreements. I have provided copies to the trustees who are present as well as the trustees who are absent. So my only comment on this agreement is the only discussion we really had of substance was the issue of moorings. The boat club wishes to have the opportunity, if they so desire, to place 3 moorings beyond their docks. And the moorings would be used to moor sailboats or boats with lengthy keels that could not be physically positioned in the dock. And I just want to make sure that any moorings they select, the locations of the moorings in the vicinity of the boat club are approved by the lake's manager. And that would be the only change I would make to the proposed agreement. And I would put it to the deputy mayor and the trustee, if you think that that's appropriate, that the lake's manager approve the specific location of the moorings, should the boat club exercise its right to place moorings in the lake.
How many moorings? I mean, I would be comfortable with a limit on. how
There are
many
3.
Three.
3, yeah. The agreement calls for 3 moorings. They don't have any yet, but they want to reserve the right to utilize 3 separate moorings.
How far out from the docks would they have to be? It would be good to see where they might be.
Well, that's why I would propose that before they get approval to place the moorings, at least the lake's manager, who has a better understanding of the structure underneath the water and the pipes that lead to the water plant, approve the location so there's no disruption. If you like, I can ask the Village Boat Club to take some photographs of the locations where they might theoretically place the moorings. At this point in time, I don't have any information on that.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is if it's a keel issue, the lake is quite shallow in front of the boathead. If it's a keel issue, the size of the keel should be specified in their request for locating them to the lake's manager. Because if it's a large keel, I can't imagine why you need a large keel. But if the keel is too large, it's problematical. So just they have to specify the size of the keel in the in the proposal to the person in charge of the lake.
Okay, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. So the agreement is proposed, plus the additional conditions that we've set forth, that the lakes manager would have to approve any moorings and any boats or vessels to be moored, the size of the keel must be specified in the request for the mooring. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I'd agree with it. I mean, the issue is partially, if it's so shallow, you don't want it to be moored too far out into the lake.
Mhm.
So the issue is, as you suggest, how far away from the local docks it are. And if it's more than some number, I would defer to the lake person on it. You don't want it to be 100 feet out. You don't want them moored sort of in a totally disconnected way. So just have that specification provided to the lakes manager. And he has the discretion to talk to us about it if he wants.
Okay, I'll add that to the agreement.
I would just like to be able to see it because, you know, whereas the club has moorings, it's not in a residential area. Whereas if you're looking at the Village Boat Club, to the left is residential.
Mhm.
If you go to the left, then you've got the,
Chastelu to the left.
well, no, you've got, the water treatment plant. And I don't know, I just like to
Yeah.
kind of see where they're gonna be and how far out,
So are you saying you would like them to designate
just to get an idea of how
where
far
they
out they
might
have
place
to
these
go?
moorings
Yeah, cause,
based upon the water depth?
and how much they need, what kind of depth they would need.
Okay, yes,
Just
Professor.
one point, on a lake as small as this, usually the boats have centerboards, which come up. That's what the club has, and I think all the other boats do too. Keels are for large sailboats.
I was saying that the reference made was keels. It's the first time I heard keels. I simply said if it's a keel, not a centerboard, I want it specified.
I doubt that there are keels on boats this size.
All I can tell you, Professor, is not being a boater myself,
Okay.
I'm using language that was given to me by the boat club. And they mentioned keels, and they mentioned the reason they have to have moorings is certain boats they might theoretically acquire in the future would have to be beyond the docks, moored in deeper water, and they would use dinghies to get to and from the boat. I have to admit, I'm kind of ignorant on the matter, and that's why that particular provision, providing for 3 individual moorings, was placed in the agreement. The history of that goes back to actually 2008, when the club requested 3 moorings. It's unclear to me at this point whether the Board of Trustees at any point agreed to the mooring request, but that's a request that they maintain now in 2024, 2025. If you'd like additional information, the boating season is over. We can revisit that. We can revisit this in December. It's not
Yeah,
going to make
okay.
or break the boat club at this point.
Yeah,
Okay?
that'd be great.
Yeah, and
So-
the agreement is renewable annually.
Yes.
We decide at any point that we don't like where the moorings are based, we remove it the following year.
Okay, all right, but we can table this till December, and I can get you some additional information on the prospective locations of the moorings, should they in fact decide they want to buy or obtain boats that require moorings. All right, next item, adoption of local law number 2 of 2024, fences. As you can see, there are only 3 members of the Board of Trustees present. Trustee Scherer and Trustee Turner were unable to make it. And for that reason, I'm going to table this particular vote on fences to December as a courtesy to our absent trustees, so that everyone can be here to discuss the pros and cons of the fence law to the extent they want to before we vote. So we will table that also till December. Under new business, schedule a public hearing for the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I can report to the community that the traffic study was returned to us. It's on the website as an attachment to the agenda, And the traffic engineer recommends that we reduce the village-wide speed limit to 25 miles an hour. That will require a change in the law and therefore a public hearing. However, again, with 2 members of the Board of Trustees absent, I've decided to table the scheduling of the public hearing for the public to respond to the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit also to December or next month. The next item is the foil policy. That is also being tabled to December of 2024. The next item is approval of contract with Sterling Carding. We will discuss that in executive session, and the reason for that is we are still in negotiations with Sterling. We are entering the final year of an extension of the contract that was signed in 2019. The contract signed in 2019 provided for 3 one-year extensions. We exercised 2. We now have the opportunity to exercise the 3rd. However, there are certain issues and requests that Sterling Carding has made in the last couple of days with respect to that extension that require a consultation with the village attorney. So we will discuss those issues in executive session, and then we'll come out of executive session possibly with a resolution. And if not, we'll engage in further negotiations before we actually enter into an extension with Sterling Carding. Next item is appointment to a bar vacancy. I'm pleased to nominate a member of the planning board who will be resigning from the planning board, who is also a member of the capital planning committee and has worked very closely with the deputy mayor, Tom Birmingham, for the vacancy that presently exists on the planning on the bar. With respect to Tom's professional experience, let me just note for the record and for the members of the public that he has extensive experience in real estate, from which he is retired. Worked at Cushman and Wakefield, worked for Richard Ellis, CBRE, a national real estate company, worked for USAA Real Estate, and he has worked very, very hard as a member of the Capital Planning Committee and fully understands the obligations and responsibilities that he would have as a member of the Board of Architectural Review. So at this point, I will move his appointment. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees appoint Tom Birmingham to the bar for the term ending in July of 2026. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Second by the deputy mayor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Trustee
Aye.
Brooke, aye. Congratulations, Tom. You are subject to signing the oath of office, a member of the Board of Architecture Review. Tom has, contingent upon becoming a member of the bar, has resigned from the planning board. So we have a vacancy on the planning board, and
We have to accept his resignation.
Oh, yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that we accept the resignation of Tom Birmingham from the planning board effective immediately. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I now declare that position on the planning board vacant. We had interviewed several candidates for the BZA. We obviously had interviewed candidates for the bar in the past. And an excellent candidate who I would like to nominate this time is Jeremy Kitty from East Lake Road. Jeremy has extensive experience in real estate development. He was the owner and may still be the owner of the Black Dirt Distillery in Pine Island. In order to build that distillery, they had to go before local planning boards in Warwick. He knows the process. He understands the process very well. And he has a great background in real estate development. So let me make a motion with respect to Jeremy Kitty, accepting the position with the planning board.
Seconded.
Let me just make the motion first. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees appoint Jeremy Kitty to the planning board to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Tom Birmingham. I'm not quite sure when the term will expire. We'll look into that. It's obviously said in the reorganization meeting. I have a second from Trustee Brooke. All in favor of
I just want to also say that he owns Warwick Valley Winery.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Very, very well qualified for the planning board position. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Kitty. Okay, and moving right along. All right, the village treasurer, the village treasurer, has been having a little bit of difficulty, with, the QuickBooks system that was installed earlier this year or late last year. And she has requested some assistance. Elizabeth, would you like to just briefly explain what is it you need from the board at this time?
When I run the balance sheet reports, the assets are supposed to equal the liabilities. That's what a balance sheet is, but it doesn't equal. I've never had this problem before. I don't know why it's happening. We had last month discussed bringing somebody in called VARC to help out, and I spoke with them for about 45 minutes. They were fantastic, and they helped me with one of the issues, which was there was a lot of unclassified items. They helped me to learn how to quickly fix the problem. So 45 minutes of their time, and I was able to fix the whole thing. But then when it came to the balance sheets, I contacted them and it was radio silence. They just never got back to me at all. So I thought, well, I guess they're not up to it. So I went back to 4Lane because they're the ones that brought all the information over to this new version of QuickBooks. And they seem to think that they'd be able to do it. And it's critical. It has to be done. We can't finish the audit until it's done. So, yeah, that's why I'd like the board's permission to bring them in to help fix this problem.
Do you have any idea, Elizabeth, how much you need in terms of consulting fees?
Well, they said it would be 1,500.
Okay. And I know the accountant is waiting for that information as well to do the report to the controller. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I said. The
Yeah,
audit can't
yeah.
finish until this is
Yeah,
done.
can't finish the audit. Okay. So be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize QuickBooks consulting firm 4Lane to work with clerk treasurer to address issues with the balance sheet problems for a maximum fee of $1,500. I move that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Elizabeth, you got the authorization you need. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. The South Gatehouse is an interesting property. We rented it for several years. Elizabeth, you could probably tell us how long, to a DPW employee, Dan Hagland. Dan is leaving the service of the village and will be moving to North or South Carolina. So the South Gatehouse will be vacant. And we have a young employee who I mentioned earlier, Ryan Burns of the DPW. He volunteered to run the hayride at Halloween. He's a great guy, and he would like to take over occupancy of the South Gatehouse. The issue is, what should the rent be? And during the last month, with the consent of the board, I spoke to a real estate broker by the name of and resident Laura Denberg, who graciously, without a fee, agreed to inspect the property and tell us what the fair market rent value would be for that particular property. And Ms. Denberg got back to me and said she thought that the South Gatehouse, for the full fair market value, would be $1,500 a month. We had been charging Dan Hagland $1,150 a month. So it's my thought that we would offer the premises to Ryan Burns for a number in between $1,150 and $1,500, in light of the fact that he's an employee and would be available quickly if we needed him. So for that courtesy, I make a recommendation that we offer him the premises on a month-to-month. Well, Dan had a month-to-month lease. We may actually have a one-year lease with Ryan at the sum of $1,350 a month. So I would make that motion. Is there any discussion? First, is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by the deputy mayor to rent to Ryan Burns for $1,350 a month. Any discussion on that number, or just renting the property generally?
One of the items is we have to replace the boiler in the property.
That is correct.
What's the price of the boiler replacement?
It's 16,000. We are also going to, at the same time, remove the oil tank. We haven't gotten an estimate on that, but I think we think it's about 2,000,
Approximately, yeah.
approximately 2,000, so 18,000 altogether.
So the rent will not cover.
No.
the
No, well,
cost.
that is going to be funded with the ARPA funds from the federal government.
Okay, as long as this has been discussed in a public meeting, I think we have to go along with your recommendation at 1350.
I mean, do you have, the 1,500 is the
Yeah.
fair market value, but we're giving, he's an employee. He's
Okay,
gonna be right here in the village together with Jeff in the event that
fine,
we need him.
I'll vote yay.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye,
Aye.
aye. Okay. You'll let Ryan know that he can take occupancy on January 1st, John, or
Sure.
to tell him? Okay, great. Next item is discussion of the New York State Power Authority as the village-owned properties electricity provider, and I turn to the deputy mayor on that one.
So, over the last year, well, first of all, John and I met with a representative from New York Power Authority and to discuss this and other projects they could help us with. So they looked at what we had spent total supply and delivery over the last 12 months. That totaled $89,795. The average cost per month per kilowatt was 7.5 cents. The new 1-year contract would be 6.1 cents per kilowatt, fixed rate for a year. That would reduce our total cost by $7,729. A reduction of 9%. So I propose we do the 1-year contract. I understand Professor Hayes' comment about extending it out as long as possible, but the 3-year contracts were substantially more, and I just thought, let's just do it for 1 year and see how it goes.
And the source of this power
Yeah,
is?
thank you. It's 100% renewable. In this case, it's mostly hydropower, which is what New York Power Authority deals in.
So it would be another green energy project for us, yes.
Yes, we would be reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by going 100% renewable on our electricity supply. It would be for all municipal accounts.
And while savings is not guaranteed, certainly in the past year, we would have saved close to $8,000.
Correct.
Right, so moving forward, we hope to save that much over the fossil fuel. Okay,
Yes.
all right, you want to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we enter into a 1-year fixed rate contract for supply of our electricity, 100% renewable supply, mostly hydro, with New York Power Authority for the rate of 6.1 cents per kilowatt.
And you'd authorize the mayor to sign the
Yes,
agreement?
and I would authorize the mayor to sign the agreement tonight.
Thank you.
It
Okay,
actually has to be tonight because the rate is only good through today.
okay.
So we have to sign it tonight.
And I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any
any
other
discussion?
discussion?
Support it, done.
Okay, all in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, 3-0. All right, next item on the agenda is the issuance of a tree removal permit to the owners at 119 Turtle Point Road. The issue of the 23 hemlock trees was discussed in great detail at the Board of Architectural Review over several sessions, and on Monday, the board authorized the owners of the property to remove the trees. Under the village code, it is the village board that must issue the permit for the removal. So with respect to that, I would make the motion be resolved. The village board issue a permit for the removal of 23 diseased hemlock trees from 119 Turtle Point Road. Village arborist John Linson, who was retained to do an independent study of those trees, is in support of the decision. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second, I didn't think you needed a permit to remove hemlocks. I thought that was predefined, especially if they're diseased. But if you want to have a situation where the trustees intervene if organizations in the village don't adequately deal with it, I'm fine with it. So I'm fully in favor of it.
Okay, second by trustee Brooke, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Passes 3-0. You can, John advised the Haydars of the same. Okay, thank you. We received a request today or yesterday for the annual bird count in the village by the Fike Nature Association. We provide them with the entry into the village on an annual basis to do the annual bird count. So I'll make a motion, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize the Fike Nature Association to perform their annual bird count. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
I'd like to just mention that we are a major migratory pathway for birds. So that's why it's really important for us to participate in the bird count.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I've never seen the report. Did they provide us with a report? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well,
They
we'll ask for, I've never seen one.
They
We'll
always
ask-
do, yeah.
Okay, all right. If anybody wants to see it, it's available. at
Next
Village
month.
Hall. Okay, thank you,
Well,
Elizabeth.
yeah, next month they'll provide us with the report.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, the next item, levy unpaid taxes onto the town county tax bill. So not every property owner has paid their taxes, which were due July 1st. And Elizabeth is good enough to make an effort to reach out to these folks that own various pieces of property to remind them that the taxes were due on July 1st. There are approximately, I think it's either 9 properties, both vacant land as well as properties with homes on them that have not paid their village taxes as required. Under law, we provide that list to the County of Orange. And the County of Orange pays us, the village, the amount in total that's due under those taxes. The county then attempts to collect the taxes, the unpaid taxes, and ultimately can enter into a tax foreclosure proceeding. But once at this time of year, we advise the county who hasn't paid, we give them the information, we give them the amount due, we get a check from the county, and then it's out of our hands. So this is a required resolution, and I will read it as follows. Resolved that the village clerk be authorized to send to the County of Orange Commissioner of Finance the attached parcel list of unpaid 2024-2025 village taxes totaling $66,474.92 for levy onto the January 2025 town county tax bill of each parcel, and that the parcel list has been compared to the original tax warrant roll and has been found to be correct. And I certified that. I make the motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. All right. Audit of claims.
We're gonna do a replacement of the boiler.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Replacement of the boiler. Yes, thank you. All right. As was indicated by trustee Brooke, we need to replace the boiler at the Southgate House where Ryan Burns, I assume, will take occupancy on January 1st. We have a quote, okay, from Nebraska. So I would,
There's the total right there.
right, so I would make a motion that we retain the services of Nebraska Plumbing, Heating and Cooling to replace the boiler at the village-owned Southgate House, and that the amount of that job will be $15,767.99. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And as the deputy mayor indicated, there'll be additional work done on that property for the removal of an old oil tank.
Correct.
And we don't have an estimate yet, but we should get that shortly. Thank you. Okay, audit of claims. Elizabeth, anything you want to say about this?
Nothing in particular, no, just that the general fund bills were $316,035.07. The sewer fund bills totaled $15,518.27. Water fund bills totaled $37,463.48. And the professional fees netted to $348 because we got some money in for people who had owed money for the past due escrow balances. And the general fund's a little bit high because we did make a big payment to our legal firm because we were a bit behind with some of the bills.
Any
Other than
questions?
that, no.
Any questions for Elizabeth from the board? Okay. Budget transfers for the record, Elizabeth?
Yes, so I am transferring $9,505 from the ERS retirement, which is, I'm going to say, the normal retirement system, to the police and fire budget. When we do the budget, we use the estimated amounts that is provided to us by NICELRS, the retirement people. But it was a little bit low for police and fire. So I'm just pulling some money over from one to the other to cover the bill that we'll be paying at the end of the month. And then in the water fund, I'm just doing a couple of transfers again, that we haven't gone over these items yet, but we're getting a little bit close. And if I project forward, it looks like we might be low at some point. So I figured, since some of the budget lines were, looked like they had a little bit more money, and some looked like we might run out at some point. Thank you, I'd move some money over. So from the 1440.4, which is engineering contractual, we're moving $30,000 to 8330.4, which is purification contractual. And from 8320.4, which is source of supply contractual, we're moving $30,000 to 8340.4, transportation and distribution contractual.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about that from the trustees? Trustee Brooke, Deputy Mayor?
No.
No, okay, all right. That completes that. And so the next time, I'm sorry? No, no. Next item is back to public trustee comments. Any follow-up comments, Deputy Mayor?
No.
Any follow-up comments, Trustee Brooke?
No.
Okay. Public comments. Anybody on Zoom wish to speak at this time? We have a number of members of the public here. Feel free to raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, the next item we move into, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on contractual issues, will be executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees leave the public meeting and enter executive session at 7:54 p.m. to discuss legal issues, receive advice from counsel on legal issues, including contractual matters. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, folks. We'll be back after the executive session. Solution on the card. All right, members of the public who are still here, we've left executive session, and we do have a resolution to put on the floor, and that resolution involves Sterling Carding. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize the mayor to sign the contract extension with Sterling Carding, subject to negotiation regarding a bump up in the fee for this final year. Is that sufficient, Jared?
Yes, and authorizing the mayor to negotiate that adjustment.
Authorizing the mayor to negotiate the same. I make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
meant to say.
Thank you. Jeff is on the phone, so let me just ask him a question before we adjourn for the night. Jeff? I know you're not feeling well. I just have one question for you. Have you had a chance to look at the 100 steps on Clubhouse Road to see if there's something we can do to fix the ground?
Looked at it and, thought instead of using, railroad ties, possibly using like a cement, or not cement, but a stone step.
Okay, we'll talk, well, fine, we'll talk about it, and I'll report to the trustees. Okay, thanks. Feel better. Thank you. Okay, okay. All right, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 8:20 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
No, you have to sign that, that agreement that,
Yes, you have to print it out. Oh, no, it's it's one of
I don't
those
think it's a DocuSign.
DocuSign, yeah, okay,
You do that on your phone or,
I think so, yeah.
or do you want to forward it to me and we can open